Jenny Coffey again with a word to say how significant you are. We have been given significance. And the Bible gives the pictures significance. It's not something we just attribute. We do struggle and kind of build the working of them out. But the language of the prophets, from the prophets, can be traced back through the Bible to get your meaning of the symbol. So, I wanted to start by making a little tidbit on one of the things that we're circulating, and that is really a better understanding of the wings on the beasts of Daniel and how that these wings move from beast to beast. Once you understand, and one of the things I found about the ostrich and the owl, being these false teachers connected with Cain and civic systems teaching of the stars and sciences and capping those educations so that their technological advances can come back and take what they want and subdue those that they've taught and take tribute and the whole empire colonistic way. But the original is associated with the owl. I found that the owl, going back, associates with like the original collaboration of this idea, because this is a joint effort of troops that move together. The owl also associates even with Lilith. So it's an imaginative venture on my part, but to think that somehow these races in the beginning had names that talked about what made them different, and one of those was sound. And it made me think, because the Bible is so common sense and so naturalistic, the way that an owl, if you've ever been outside and had a big one fly close to you over your head, there's something that is going on that stills you. And then you see the shadow or even out of the corner of your eye, what just happened? And then you'll catch it out of the corner of your eye. But they have a sonic sound that does that. It paralyzes the prey so that it's still for a second, and it gives the owl really good aim to pick up its prey. And of course, they do fly in the dark. Just a little bit on my part, but that I did find it associated with the beginning and being like the word original associating with it. But that these wings you find traced back to the flying serpent, to places where there were serpent mounds, and that we know that Cain came from something that came from Eden, and that there was a world age that destroyed all of that, but that the association with men continued on as these teachings of scientific teaching, showing the stars, keeping the time, and following the equinox to navigate. So all these teachings that helped them to trade, and that they did trade in slavery and enslaving man, but they offered tortures of their victims to these entities, so that they were aware of the spiritual significance of these fears that they promoted on the people, not only in people's minds, but that they were in contact with something on the supernatural plane that favored them for these sacrifices. So these wings, you'll find the bird and or the eagle with a snake in its mouth as Dan's banner. And of course we know, that the horses are herd in Dan, and they're going north quiet. The four horsemen, and you see this system of teaching the four horses. And this system associates with the way that Dan, rather than going in and taking his lot of inheritance, he had false idols made and set up a false system. So he's not even mentioned in the promise in his inheritance. So that we can be sure that when you make merchandise of God to make merchandise of men, that you're losing your eternal inheritance. Now, these teachings under this banner go back even can we trace up in time and up on the continent toward the north that we consider the tales in the times of Tartaria, Middle Earth type tales, and the frozen north and the judgment that would have come on the children of the first rendition of what we consider titans and giants. But it's very important to understand that even those men at the time, and like you see today, that these natural elements around us that are earth and four-dimensional, they're not shifting, it's concrete, and that these titans are now our mountains and caves and whatnot. And they went into those caves and did their delineation, whether they isolated and caused psychotic breaks, but there are paranormal events that go on in these caves. So these wings travel through time with this idea of setting up a civic system as a religion. And there it is, the father country idea. It's subservience and obedience and totalitarianism or communitarianism, at its best could be called, but that it is this following the lead of society over understanding that you're developing your own morals and connection with God, and choosing against your nature toward what is defined as a control measure of to your flesh. A lot of people, want to argue about Paul, but Paul's verified in other books that your flesh is going to testify to you. It's going to say ouch when you put it on a hot stove. So you learn to experience that way, but that these wings, in their worship, really turn toward the worldly. So the message is, the more that you reveal about the kings, the priests, and the military, the education, you realize that as complicated as it gets, it's really the same message that you received as a child on what Jesus is. But that these men are trying to facilitate an empire under Lucifer, the first fallen one. So the father of Cain, this individual that was a seraphim in heaven, and the serpent on earth. This is where we can attribute to it. But this system is basically wealth, profiteering. Even, you really think it's the collection of different nations of men that they put on the boat to work the boat. They also, taught religions where the temple would hold their women, as consorts or the oldest trick or trade in the book.